Coming up, we got a look at Google's competitor for the Mac Mini, Lenovo's latest laptop, and something called the Q. It's time to watch before you buy.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Before You Buy is brought to you by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. Before You Buy is brought to you by Ford, featuring the My Ford Mobile smartphone app for electric vehicles. The My Ford Mobile app makes the electric driving experience fun and efficient. Learn more about Ford electric vehicle technologies at ford.com/technology.
Welcome to Before You Buy, the TWiT review show where we get a bunch of great stuff or sometimes not so great stuff in and let our staff review it. And it's one of the fun things for me to do because, A, I get to get all the staff on the air and mock them, and B, we get to see the brick houses we wander around. We're recording this on an auspicious day, the one-year anniversary of our move to our new studios. It's amazing how ratty stuff can get in a year. Come with me, Chad, because we're going to go over here. Jason Howell has his review. Jason's the editor of TNT and the host of All About Android. Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
So you were at Google I/O. You got to bring home a bunch of stuff. We've reviewed a lot of it, the Nexus phone. I'm going to review the Chromebox in a little bit. You also got something called the Q.
Yeah, which is kind of a curious thing. It's a very unique-looking device. It's a little orb, which you'll see in a second. Google's kind of entry into hardware design. So in many ways, it's kind of an important piece of hardware, at least for, in the short term, for how successful can Google be creating hardware. But the answer of whether it's great or not so great is kind of hard to answer. I think the video review will probably.
Let's take a look.
This is Google's foray into hardware development. Very first device that they've developed start to finish. Google bills this as a social media player, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means in a few minutes. Let's first take a look at the specs. It has an OMAP 4460 dual-core Cortex A9 CPU inside, very similar to what I have in my Galaxy Nexus, actually. 1 gig of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, micro HDMI output, optical audio output. There's banana jack speaker outputs on the back, Ethernet and micro USB ports. It supports Google's Play Store, so that's Play Music, Play Movies, Play TV. It also supports YouTube playback. It's running Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, and it requires a separate device running Jelly Bean. They say running Gingerbread and Up, but I found that nothing else but Jelly Bean seemed to control the Nexus Q, so that's kind of a bummer from the start. But first, let's take a look at the design. It's an impressive design. It's very heavy at 2 pounds. Around the edge here, you have 32 RGB LED lights that light up, as you can see, depending on what you're doing, and 1 RGB LED light on the top. This is how you actually mute. The top half of this dome rotates, and this is how you control volume. It does have a little bit more of a plasticky feel than the bottom, which is definitely more on the metal side, but overall, the aesthetic of the device isn't tampered by that, and it's pretty nice. So first of all, let's dive into setup and configuration. I'll go ahead and launch my Nexus Q app on my Galaxy Nexus, hold it up to the Q, and now it's asking me where do I want this device. I'll go ahead and say dining room. So now it's setting up, it's connecting. Okay, so now I have it all synced up. First of all, I can go into YouTube, and once it's associated with my account, it will actually pull up my Q, and it will sync it directly over to the screen that you see here. I'll go ahead and load an episode of Tech News Today, and as you can see, it's playing. If I turn this, we start to hear it. So it's syncing. That also includes scrubbing. If I scrub to the middle, it pops right into the middle. It's actually a pretty great way to control YouTube from the comfort of your couch. I actually really enjoyed watching YouTube videos with the Q. You can do other things, of course. You can watch movies through their Play Movies. And there we go, Transformers, Dark of the Moon. Again, I could scrub through this from the comfort of my couch and control it that way. Now lastly, let's jump into Play Music. And as you can see, I can go right in here, select a Delta Spirit song, and shortly after, the song is streaming to the Nexus Q. You see the visualization, which you can configure, by the way. Now, in a perfect world, the Nexus Q offers a social streaming component where people with multiple devices can connect to it and offer music to the general pool, the overall jukebox playing. My experience with it was extremely iffy. At home, I could get it working most of the time between these two devices. Here at TWiT, I never can. No matter what, it's been extremely frustrating and I cannot get it working here at the TWiT studios. So keep that in mind. It's not as intuitive as they say it should be. Now, one big downside of the Nexus Q is its limited use case. You're paying a premium in this case, $299, to do less than others in the space, like the Apple TV and Google TV specifically. There's no Netflix, no Hulu. Overall, it's just begging for these things, and you kind of wonder why it was left out. We're hoping that maybe it gets added in the future, but at this point in time, it doesn't look very good. On a positive note, during the Google I/O conference, when they announced the Q, they announced that the USB port on the back encourages general hackability, and we're already seeing custom ROMs come out for the Q, as well as things like Xbox Media Center being used as a front end to do all the things that the Nexus Q lacks out of the box. So let's take a look at the pros of this. Its hardware design is very attractive. It's easily hackable, which should encourage some interesting use cases down the line. Content navigation of Google Play and YouTube content can be enjoyable when you get it to work. Now the cons. It's absolutely overpriced compared to similar function devices. It's underutilized with the hardware limited to so few uses. And setup and operation can be confusing due to the lack of interface, if not downright painful. So in the end, it simply does not do enough to justify the cost of $299 in the end. If Google comes around and adds more capability to the Nexus Q, I'd revisit my statement. But at this point, I cannot recommend that you buy the Nexus Q. Check out my reviews on All About Android, twit.tv/AAA, and thank you so much for watching my review of the Google Nexus Q.
Thank you, Jason. Hugon in our chat room said, the Google Q, why buy one ball when you should have two? The problem is nobody's going to buy two because nobody's going to buy one. However, I bet you'll be able to buy them for 20 bucks on eBay in about 3 months.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I think they're actually coming up for less definitely than the $300 price tag that they're offering right now on eBay. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they added in this functionality for the Qs to talk together.
When no one has two.
Yeah, no one's going to buy two of these things. I have a really hard time believing that.
And one other point we wanted to make is it doesn't really store video or audio on it. It's playing it from the cloud.
Yeah, it wasn't too clear in the review, and I realized that after the fact. It's definitely a cloud media streaming player. So it has onboard storage. It has the 16 gigs of storage, but that's all pretty much used for caching the video that you stream from the cloud directly to the device. It has nothing to do with my device that I'm sending media over to it. It's pulling directly from the cloud itself. I'm just controlling it on my device.
Jason Howell, All About Android. And by the way, I saw you're going to be reviewing the Asus Transformer Pad Infinity. I can't wait to see your review of that. That is going to be one hot Android tablet. A little more expensive than the Nexus 7, but should be fun to see. Thank you, Jason. All About Android TNT. Now we're going to see what Ayaz Akhtar thinks of the latest Lenovo laptop. Ayaz?
I'm Ayaz Akhtar with TWiT, and you might not have noticed, but I have an Ultrabook here that matches my shirt. This is the Lenovo U310. It's Lenovo's newest Ultrabook. If you go around, it's pretty much got all the specs you expect. When it comes to an Ultrabook, we have 2 USB ports, HDMI port, Ethernet, power, because you need to power this thing, USB 2.0 port, and a combination microphone, headphone jack, and of course, like every other Ultrabook, not a whole lot else. Oh wait, SD card slot, no optical drive on board. Obviously, one of the first things you'll notice about the Lenovo U310 is it has a totally different style than a lot of other Ultrabooks, and they come in lots of different colors if this isn't your particular kind of thing. So we're going to try to open this up. And I tried out the Lenovo U300 previously, and it seems like they skimped a little bit on the lips. It's a little harder to open up than before. They've cut the price down extensively on the U310. Now, it used to cost somewhere over $1,000, the 300 version. 310, they've added a lot of plastic. This used to be much more metal and it was sturdy. And when you type on the keyboard, you can see a flex on the tray underneath. I didn't quite like that. I'm not really worried. I'm not going to type like a madman, but it's not something you want to see in your notebook computer. We have a 13-inch screen with a 1366 by 768 display, so not the highest of resolutions. It's running Windows 7. And inside, you can see by the sticker, Intel Core i5. This is the 3rd generation Ivy Bridge processor, it's snappy, it's very fast. Again though, not a whole lot of standouts when it comes to the Ultrabooks. They're all very similar. It's almost depressing at this point. A lot of these Ultrabooks are so similar in specs. The only thing that these companies can do to make it different is by appearance. And again, Lenovo, I mean, they went out of their way to make this thing look not like any other Ultrabooks. It might look like a MacBook, but it doesn't look like an Ultrabook. So good on you, Lenovo, for that. I would have liked a higher res display, quite honestly, but at the price, I told you, they cut off hundreds of dollars off of this, $720. For the pros, you can see the Lenovo styled this. So it's very stylish, it looks different. Inside, the performance is very good. We're talking about an Ultrabook. Unfortunately though, it doesn't exactly stand out compared to every other Ultrabook. It's inexpensive at $720. For the cons, that keyboard flex does not make me happy. And again, not a whole lot of things done by Lenovo to make this a standout product. Is it a try? Is it a buy? Is it a don't buy? Well, it's definitely a try. $720, this is a lot more affordable than the old series. It does an adequate job, and that's unfortunately the word for this. It's adequate. So if you want an adequate notebook, try it out. I'm Isaac over at TWiT, and this is the Lenovo U310.
You know, when Lenovo bought the ThinkPad brand from IBM, everybody was wondering, what are they going to do that's different? For a long time, they just made more ThinkPads. So it's interesting to see them do something else. But boy, the Ultrabook designs, they're all copycat designs. Let's see something new. Let's see something innovative. Let's see something different. Ayaz Akhtar, you catch him on TNT Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on twit.tv. Let me walk over and say hello to our producer, Nicole Lee, who puts the show together every week. Hi, Nicole.
Hello, how are you?
And this time, no, you, in theory, could review anything.
In theory.
But you choose what you want to review, or you just wait till nobody will review it and then you take it.
It works both ways.
What are you reviewing this week?
It's the new iPad Smartcase for the iPad.
Well, let's take a look.
I'm Nicole Lee from TWiT, and before you buy it, I'm reviewing the iPad Smartcase today. This iPad Smartcase is essentially the sequel of sorts to the iPad Smart Cover that came out last year. The iPad case is it's a little bit different from the iPad cover just because it covers the entirety of the iPad. The iPad cover just covers the front. So you still have all of the back, all of the sides exposed to potential nicks, scratches, which you don't want, right? So when the iPad case came out, I was actually really excited about finally I have a full coverage for my brand new iPad here. And it has the same magnet thing on the front, the same accordion magnet thing. You can set it up the same way, you know, sort of the lower angle for typing and the higher position for viewing videos and all of that. The iPad case is smartly designed to expose the ports, the headset port right here, the charging port in the bottom, even sort of a grid-like port for the speaker, and very cleverly a nice little cutout for the camera as well as the lock switch right here. There are also sort of raised buttons for the power button right here, as well as a volume rocker on the side. Now, the iPad case is $10 more than the iPad cover. The iPad case is $49, while the iPad cover is $39, so that's a consideration. Now, pros and cons. Let's go to the pros and cons of the iPad case versus the iPad cover. I have to say, first of all, a huge pro is that it covers the entire thing. You don't have any open space for there to be any potential nicks and scratches. I put this in my bag without having to worry about being, all scuffed up on the inside. Now for the cons. First of all, it's $10 more, so that's a consideration. And I think this is a kind of a big con, so hear me out on this. When I position it horizontally for video viewing, let me just position both the cover and the case right here. Now with the cover, I mean, it's pretty stable. See, I'm shaking it around, pretty stable. Not really moving around at all. I'm just shaking it around, very stable. With the case, look at how wobbly it is. A slight push, and it topples. Because I think of the way they designed the hinge here that attaches the cover to the case itself, because it's so wobbly and kind of weird, it just does not have the same solidity as the very clear metal hinge on the cover. So I have to say overall, buy, try on, don't buy on the case, I kind of say it's a don't buy. Just because I know it covers the entire thing and that offers a more secure feel for the iPad. But I think get a third-party back cover from like InCase or Spec or something like that, and use the smart cover here if you want to have this sort of stand view right here. So plus it's more expensive and you don't need that. So overall, I would say a don't buy for the iPad Smart case. I'm Nicole. This has been Before You Buy.
I was liking this right up to the point where you pushed it over.
Yeah, that was essentially where I was like, okay, this is not worth it.
That's too bad, because that's what's wrong to me with the smart cover is it doesn't cover the whole thing.
Exactly. So the point, my advice would be to get a third-party case. Really.
That's the good news is there's so many third-party cases. It's almost hard to choose one. And
disappointed that Apple made such a horrible case.
well, that's not the first time. Sometimes when they make accessories, they're not as good as the third-party accessories. Nicole Lee, who produces the show. Thank you, Nicole. In just a bit, we're going to take a look at a docking solution for your MacBook. Before we do that, though, I do want to tell everybody about our sponsor, the Ford Motor Company. It's always good to have Ford as a part of our shows, and Ford is doing such neat stuff with their vehicles. I want you to go to Ford.com/technology and take a look at the amazing technology that's in today's Ford vehicles. For everything from their diesel, their gasoline, their hybrid, their plug-in hybrid, and electric vehicles, state-of-the-art in every respect. They really become consumer electronic devices. If you visit Ford.com/technology, you can find out more about the My Ford mobile app. It's almost a demonstration app to give developers an idea of what you can do with the platform. And this is what is so interesting about what Ford's doing with their car. They see it as a platform for developers to write software for. They realize that the car itself isn't going to get updated as much as your smartphone does, for instance. The My Ford mobile app is designed right now for the 2012 Ford Focus Electric, and it lets you do things like find out where the car is, what its state of charge is, find out the nearest charging stations, plan your route for the most eco-friendly route. You can even compete with others to see how much CO2 you've saved by using the Ford Focus Electric. A great vehicle. Take a look at that price, too. And there's so many great pluses for this. Fastest charging time, best fuel efficiency in its class. I love this. Little things like this. We saw this in the Q, that illuminated LED ring. Same thing on the charge port. Lets you know the state of charge of your car. You can also do it from the living room with the My Ford mobile app. Check it all out. Ford.com/technology. Or better yet, go to your EV-certified Ford dealer. Bring your smartphone, BlackBerry, Android, or iOS, and install the My Ford mobile app, and they'll give you a test drive of the car and the app. Ford.com/technology. Look who's here. My buddy, Chad Johnson, who's our camera operator on the show, and also does reviews from time to time. I have to apologize. I owe you an apology.
It's fine. It's fine.
You know what I'm talking about?
I saw, Leo.
So I was desperate. It was the Daily Gizwiz last Saturday, and I didn't know what to review, and I saw this thing sitting on your desk, and I said, I'll review that.
It's so cool. You just got to look at it. You got to figure out what it is.
Would you give us a demo of the Macintosh Hinge?
Absolutely. Here's roll the video.
Hello, my name is Chad Johnson. I'm with TWiT and Before You Buy, reviewing the 15-inch unibody MacBook Pro Hinge dock. This dock is a plastic dock that you would slide your MacBook Pro or MacBook Air or just plain old MacBook into, and it helps you avoid plugging in and unplugging cables every time you move your laptop from one location to another. My 15-inch MacBook Pro kit included the plastic dock, 2 audio cables, 2 USB cables, a FireWire 800 cable, and an Ethernet cable. Those cables are sized specifically to work with the dock and make sure that everything is snug and fits perfectly. Now, I had to supply 2 of my own cables for this setup. I supplied a Thunderbolt or mini display port, and then also a MagSafe power adapter. The dock works with all of the Apple standard MagSafe power adapters, and it comes with little clips to make sure that everything is snug if you happen to have one MagSafe versus another. Now let me get into my pros and cons. First, the pros. This is a space saver, really like that. All the necessary cables are included, so I didn't have to worry about not having the proper sizes. And I felt that it was really secure and it was safe sitting up on my desk. The cons are the cost, coming in at $69.99, $70 for a plastic dock and cables seems a little bit expensive. And tools are required to add more cables, so you need to have an Allen wrench. Finally, the dock comes in at $69.95 on the Hinge dock website. Buy, try, don't buy? I'm going to say buy. I found this dock really convenient, and I didn't have to plug and unplug my cables every time I sit down at my desk. I would say that the space-saving nature of the dock and the convenience of it really offsets the price, and I would definitely buy this dock. Thanks for watching. My name is Chad Johnson, and this has been Before You Buy on TWiT.
And I like the J.J. Abrams lens flare that you got.
I worked out really hard.
That's fake. That's all done in Magic Bullet in FileMaker, just in case. FileMaker, Final Cut, just in case. What is this we see? Oh, I'm going to show you the Chromebox in a second. But before we go, I'm interested that you thought it was worth buying because you've been using it for a long time. But I had one question. How do you get the Ethernet cable to disconnect?
That's the thing, is that Ethernet cable comes with the kit. So the cable that they give you doesn't have the normal clip on the top. And
There's no latch.
You have to use that one. So if for some reason it breaks or something like that, there's no latch. And
Although you could just break off the little latch on there. But it seems like it's fairly sure the connection is not falling out.
Right, exactly. And
I love the idea.
I'm not sure if that Ethernet cable is sized so that no other Ethernet cable could work in that.
Like they really put a lot of thinking into there, yeah. And it is it takes advantage of one of the real neat features of the MacBook, which is that you can use it with a big screen without opening it. So it stays closed, it charges, it gives you all the connections, and you just slot it in. Do you use it now?
I use it all the time at work because I'm taking my laptop from home and then using it here. And while it's closed, you can even still access the CD tray at the top, which is really useful.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. All right, we'll let you go because I'm going to do the last review of the evening, and it is this, and that's what you're seeing on the screen here. This is one of the other things that people got at Google I/O. It's a Samsung Chromebox. Now, if you look at this, you might say, boy, that looks like a familiar computer. Maybe that's something a little bit like a Mac Mini. And in fact, it's almost identical to the Mac Mini in terms of size and capabilities. It's a little different, and it's a lot different in price. $329 for the Chromebox. For that, you get 16 gigs storage, and by the way, solid-state storage and no internal storage other than that. But that's the whole idea behind Chrome OS. That's the operating system running on this. 4 gigs of RAM, and it is an Intel, they call it an Intel Core processor. Folks, it's a Celeron. I didn't even know Intel. They must have had some lying around in the back that they sold to Samsung for this device. It is a lot faster, however, than the other Chromebooks we have seen. They've gotten a lot faster. So as you can see, we've got 2 USB ports on the front. That's for the keyboard and mouse. There's an combined audio jack, input and output. That's the on-off switch. Sorry, I'm reversed here. On the back, lots of ports. We've got a bunch more ports, including 4 more USB ports. Below it, you'll see a kind of an oddball port. That's the DisplayPort Plus++. There's also a standard DVI connector, which is good, and I'll explain why that's there in a minute, and an Ethernet connector. So it's a very well-equipped box in terms of I/O. But you got to understand, this is not really intended for the home market. This is running Chrome OS, which is essentially just the Chrome browser. We'll get it started. It's actually wants to do first-time run. So let me put our Ethernet in here. This is designed. How do you like the keyboard? This is the one we had lying around. Sometimes I find it easier to have really, really big keys. So we've booted up, and we've booted up into the newest version of Chrome OS. And one of the things I like about the new Chrome OS is it looks a little bit more like a desktop. We actually have desktop wallpaper here. You can't really configure it very much. I can only choose from a handful of photos, none of which are my own, but at least I can change it around once in a while. You also have access to most Google Chrome extensions, work fine on Chrome, and that's the idea, is that your applications will come through the browser. They have kind of hidden that fact. It does look more like an operating system now, but notice when I run any of the applications, it's really just launching that application as a Chrome extension, whether it's Gmail, Google Search itself, or access to the Google Drive. Really, what this is a device that allows you to access your Google stuff. So,
Who's this for? Well, they say schools, and it's true. Because of its limitations, you don't have to worry about kids playing video games on here or getting malware on it. Some businesses may want this as a good choice for workers who don't need to do a whole lot of hardcore computing. And I think really where I can really see this in use is in an internet cafe or a kiosk environment where you want to give people access to the web and email, but nothing else. You can even, if you get it screwed up in some way or there's malware somehow gets on it, it's very easy to reboot it and rewrite everything and start from scratch. So this is inexpensive, pros and cons. Inexpensive are the pros for sure. Lots of ports, which is great. Full access to Google Chrome and the internet, but cons, it's a very limited operating system. The extensibility isn't as great as you'd think because I can't plug in a bunch of hard drives and really all I can do is keyboard, mouse, and monitor. Google does sell a mouse monitor, mouse and keyboard combination, but you're going to have to bring your own monitor if you want. And the price is a little high, $329, considering what you get. A lot faster than early Chrome OS devices, but a very limited marketplace. If you're in that marketplace, it's an absolute buy. But I have to say, for the rest of us, it's probably a don't buy. It's not something you're going to want or need. That's it for my review of the Google Chromebox and for this edition of Before You Buy. I thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to our reviewers, Jason Howell, Nicole, Ayaz Akhtar, Chad Johnson, our camera guy, of course, Brian Burnett, our technical director. Thanks to you for joining us. You can email us, byb@twit.tv, if you've got something you'd like us to review. We'd be interested in hearing about that. You can also go to YouTube. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/twit, has every one of these reviews full length so you can watch them again and again and share them with your friends. Please do. We do Before You Buy every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC on twit.tv. You can watch us screw it up live or watch the final edited version. It's perfection in itself. That's available for download anytime, audio and video at twit.tv/BYB. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for being here. And remember, you got to watch before you buy. Bye-bye.